What is up, everybody? I bet you weren't expecting to get two videos in the same year. I am back today doing my 1.0 mock draft. We just got out of the lottery selection in terms of, so now we know where everybody is going to be drafted team-wise. Behind me, you can see that the combine is in full swing. I think this is day 2 at this point, as when you're watching this video. It could be over by the time you do watch it. So today, we're going to be going through the mock draft simulator. Based on how it is. And I'm going to be making picks based on what I think those teams would do, not on what is on my actual big board. There's definitely players on here that I would have drafted higher, other ones I've been drafted lower. And so I know that fans of teams are gonna be like, oh, there's no way that the Pistons would do this. Maybe. I mean, like you know your team better than I do. Just from a outside perspective, a person who's been watching the NBA for almost 30 years, this is just how I see things playing out in a way that makes sense to me. Also, if you're a Grizzlies fan, be on the lookout. I will be doing a Grizzlies documentary series this year, probably like 10 to 12 episodes, just depending on how far they make it into the playoffs. Almost like a Hard Knocks, style thing, where it's the season of revenge. Everybody was putting dirt on their grave, and I feel like they're going to come back really, really strong. So let's just get into it, man. There will be timestamps down below for everybody if you just want to jump to like your favorite team and then hop right off. Totally cool. Hit the subscribe button if you like what you see, and let's just get into it, man. All right, so. Just getting right into, all right, we start off with the Atlanta Hawks. Man, them jumping 9 spots with a 3% chance is incredible. Nobody saw them being here. Super cool. So when I look at this team, they were a play-in team, so they're not that far away from kind of competing, but they are old in certain spots. You see, with Clint Capella, and a few of the players on their bench. There's this whole Trae Young versus DeJounte Murray thing. Are they going to trade one? Man, I really don't know, but I don't think that should be a big factor unless they want to just trade this pick in general, which I don't know if you do, man. I mean, to me, this is your last chance for a while to get what could be superstar level prospect. And I know that this draft is weak, but every draft has got really great players in it, and it doesn't matter what year you look at. They just don't line up in the top 5 sometimes. Sometimes they're at 10 or 15 or whatever. So if it's me, the Hawks, I go with Alex Sarr. And the reason I go with Alex Sarr here is, he's got great size. He did well at the combine. I feel like a player of his stature is not common. With today's, defensive centers becoming like they look like damn guards with, Chet Holmgren and, Victor Wembanyama, and they're Jaren Jackson is a big you have to have a mobile big who can do a lot. You can't just have a bruiser anymore. You see guys like Jonas Valanciunas, Nurkic, those guys being just relegated basically to the bench in tough spots. So to me, I think Alex Sarr has the most potential. He also lets them maybe move off of Clint Capella in his contract to get another valuable piece elsewhere. There's a few teams that could use him. He has regressed in terms of his overall ability, but there's definitely a few teams who could use a guy that just blocks shots and gets rebounds. Moving on to number 2, we have the Washington Wizards, which thankfully for them, they were able to keep their pick. They didn't get unlucky like the Pistons. When I look at them, they need everything. They need absolutely everything. They had a really bad year, but to me, they kind of need to swing, kind of don't need to swing. They need a really safe, what could be solid prospect. I don't think that they need to swing for the fences, so to speak, because if they miss again, it could just lead them here for the next 5 years. So even though I'm not super high on this player, I could totally see them going with Jonathan Clingan. I always say his name wrong. So I going with Donovan here. Everybody kind of has him as the consensus, can't fail prospect. He's going to come in at the very least, and he's going to give you great defense at the rim. His combine numbers were okay, not terrible or anything. So he's got some athletic prowess. He can come in from day one, have a immediate role in terms of what is expected of him. They desperately need a big man, and I think this gives them like a super safe but good option at 2 that they cannot mess up. As opposed to going off of trying to take maybe like a Ricochet or a Montez Buzelis is high, where if that pick fails, it sets them back dramatically and it puts them in an even worse position. So I think Donovan Clingan, I keep saying his name wrong. For all of the things that I don't like about him, he does a lot of things very, very well. One, he is a giant of a person. He's going to immediately help them in terms of on their defensive end, which they desperately need. And then he's great around the rim. I don't think he'll ever be a shooter, even though he shot okay in the combine. His form is so slow. He's going to be a guy that if he's completely wide open with like 10 feet of space, maybe he can drill a couple, but I would never expect him to be that. But he does screen very well, and he also passes the ball very well. Moving on to the 3rd pick in the draft, and that is the Houston Rockets, who also moved up. I think that they were at 9, and they moved up to 3, which is, I'm sure that they were not expecting at all. I'm sure that they were hoping, but, to move up from 9 to 3, changes a lot of things for them as well. And I look at their team; they have a lot of strong, parts. And then they have a couple of older pieces. And I feel like if maybe Donovan had fallen to them here, I'm sure that there's some Rocket fans that would have been on board with that, even though they just traded for Steven Adams, who, after basically being out for 20 months, who knows what type of Adams that they're going to get. Really great guy. He was awesome for the Grizzlies. I wish him nothing but best of luck in Houston. But it's very concerning at his age. So I kind of move towards there's not another big man that I would take here at this level for them, but I think that they really need a guard for the future. And that got me thinking that there's a couple guys here that I might go with. And the first one that I think just makes the most sense, that I could totally see going there, thriving, mixing well with everybody there, has that dog mentality, can get in the paint at will, and that is Rob Dillingham. Rob is he did so many things well in college except for be tall. He looks like he's got amazing intangibles. He has a killer instinct on the offensive side of the ball. He gets in the paint at will. He can finish very, very well, even for his small size. Thankfully, he did not measure smaller than what we were thinking. He came right in at I think 6'1" in shoes. He's probably like 6'1.5" or so. So he's not a midget, so to speak, as people like to say. With guys like that are 5'11", like an Isaiah Thomas or something like that. I mean, like there's a lot of guys that have found good success in this league off of being 6'1" to 6'2", and one person on that team is going to be Fred VanVleet, who's getting a little bit older. But I think that this would give them just another option on offense that they desperately need with, guard penetration, and being able to draw, double teams so that guys like Jalen Green don't have to do so much. Guys like Auburn Şahin can get a little bit of help in terms of actually getting him the ball in good spots. I think that this would be like a really, really good fit for them. Moving on to number 4. This one was kind of tough because as you see, both of the guys on the board there, Zachary Ricochet and Topic, I think that both could be really good fits. The Spurs desperately need 3-point shooting, especially on that wing. They have no way to really help space the floor for Victor. But they also don't really have great guard play. While I like Vassell, he's just better off the ball. And Trey Jones is okay, but you can desperately upgrade there as well. I think another option could have been Donovan here if it falls. Even though I don't know if I like that. That mix there with him and Victor. Like I get it from a size perspective, where you're just like, what are folks going to do? It's like I don't know if you want to have two guys there that are going to have issues on the wing with really fast, explosive players that will be getting around them in those like pick and roll situations. But that's not me. But he's off the board, so it doesn't matter. I ended up going with Nikola Topic. I went with Nikola Topic. One, I think he just makes the most sense in general. He is a big guard. Pop is really great with putting people into systems. Nikola has this Luka Doncic-esque game, almost like a diet Luka, where he's got that really great hesitations, herky jerky. He passes the ball over the top of defenses really well. He sets up his teammates. He sees cutters very well. I think that would work in a Pop system. His jump shot is not great, but it's definitely something that at least can be workable. With a person of his size, him and Vassell playing together could be great. The only reason why I did not go with Topic a little bit higher, I was thinking maybe 2 to Washington. He recently had another injury, which that's two kind of I don't want to say major injuries, but 2 scary injuries in the same year. Is this going to be like a recurring theme with him in his career? So I dropped him a couple spots, even though I think that people thought he was an obvious top 1 or 2 player in this draft, and he very well could be. I'm a little hesitant, but I think that this would be a killer spot for him to land. Moving on to the Pistons, who unfortunately fell. Man, so sad for them. Again, I feel like they have to do something to really help out in this draft, because I get it. You want to stop teams from tanking, but at the same time, you have to not continue to hinder the teams that are having issues, right? Because the whole idea of the draft is to spread talent evenly, and then teams that are not good the year before can slowly get better and then become competitive, and then their fan base, it can grow and blah, 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 right? But the problem is, because you've flattened out the odds, teams that are bad are not getting the pick. And you got teams like the Hawks that were 10th, that were competitive all year, and then they get lucky and they get to move up and get a really great talent, and then they get to continue to be lucky while the other teams continue to fall. But that's a whole nother tangent. Detroit needs a lot of stuff. I like, obviously, I like Isaiah Stewart, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's small. He gets a bad rap, but he's tough, man. I'm cool with that guy going to fight every single game. Cade Cunningham's obviously really good. Asar Thompson is also really strong. Jaden Ivey. You have to find a way, because you use such a high pick on Ivey, to make him work with Cade. I never liked the pairing originally. I think they're both on-ball guards, because neither one is a good, consistent off-ball, outside threat. Jalen Duren is great. So there's a lot of strong pieces here, with like Sasser. You just have to add some more adults, I think. And that's weird to say, because the guy I'm going to go with, I think can play with Cade. And, it's a player that is very smart. He's going to be a great secondary ball handler, a great connector piece. He's solid on defense. And that is going to be Reed Sheppard. And you might be a little shocked by that. One, Reed Sheppard has an amazing jump shot, which none of the Pistons do currently. I cannot draft another guy that might not be good from 3. That just makes no sense. They desperately need an outside guard threat who is good overall, not just in some spurts. I think Reed and Cade would be a really smart pairing together, where you can put Cade on the harder guard defense, and then Reed, man, he might not be a great defender at the next level, but all the metrics in college, he overcame so much, and his measurables, unfortunately, are a little bit smaller than we were hoping. He was claimed to be 6'3". He's not 6'3". He's closer to 6'1" to 6'2", and his arms are not very long. So he's got that, Desmond Bain, where he just didn't have the best measurables, but amazingly efficient. He gets in the lane, has a lot of smart packages on scoring. People are worried about how he's going to be able to create his own shot. I think with a player like Cade Cunningham, and a big like that with Jalen Duren, I don't think he's going to be asked to have to create a shot a lot. He moves very well off the ball. He's a smart player. This is somebody that can come in from day one and give them more heightened intelligence on the court to work with Cade. I think it would be a really great fit. Number 6, we moved to Charlotte, which also moved down a little bit. And they have, needs around the board. This is another spot where, Donovan McClanahan, could go. They have a couple of okay bigs in Nick Richards and Mark Williams. I really like Brandon Miller. I was way off on him for whatever reason. I thought, because Jordan picked him, that he just wasn't going to be good. He ended up, man, he was awesome last year. So great hit for them. LaMelo has a lot of talent. He is hurt a lot though. And you kind of just look, and they need another possible player that can be has good size, who can play some defense, hits and threes. The Frenchman here, Zachary Richichet, I'm not as high on him as others. I do think he'll slip a little bit, but he projects as a 6'10", 3-and-D guy. You know, he does play defense hard. So there's some comparisons to him and Michael Porter Jr. But that, you know, Zachary actually plays defense. I think Porter originally was a really good 3-level scorer before his back just doesn't allow him to be that crafty anymore. But, you know, Richichet had this really great run at one point. And that is going to be my pick at number 6. Is going to be Zachary Richichet. And as I was, you know, like alluding, you know, potentially he could be this Rashard Lewis. You know, people think he's the French Kevin Durant. I don't think he's, you know, anything like that. But a person of his stature, 6'9", 6'10", good measurables. He's not very athletic, but he's okay in that. You know, solid wingspan. You know, he had a stretch where he hit like 60% of his threes. I didn't include his Euro Cup numbers. I only included his normal like league numbers overseas because there was a higher game sample. But yeah, so I think, you know, he's 19. Like, he could easily be a project player, and if he hits like him, Brandon Miller, LaMelo, you know, Mark Williams, like that's a lot of size, you know, all over the board, which I think could be like just a really imposing overall starting 5. Number 7, Portland continues to also have a bunch of needs. You know, it's like, where do you go here? I think this could be another spot for, you know, Donovan. I think could go here. You know, it's they could also use, you know, Richichet. You know, it's but I don't know. It's like, do you go with a guard here? Because, you know, it's like they have so many. They have with Scoot and Sharp and Simons, and they basically forced Sharp out of that guard role into more of like a small ball 3 role, which I don't think is his natural position. You know, Simons is really good, and it's, you know, I feel like they just drafted too much of the same guy. They have Jeremy Grant, who's older. You know, it's like they probably just move off of him in his contract. They just brought in Ayton, who I just think he's just an okay center. He has some pretty good moments, but for the most part, you know, you kind of just question him and his motor. You know, because if he had the motor, then he might have fit in better with Phoenix, but, you know, he just didn't show it there, and he wanted to do more. And then he got to Portland, and it just didn't really, you know, help them elevate. You know, Robert Williams is also, you know, I hate that he had that surgery, you know, So with all that in mind, I think that they need a really defensive-minded wing. Like, they don't have a lockdown defender. That they have guys who play hard. They don't have anybody that I think can really, you know, you could just put on another player and be like, yeah, he's going to go get it done. So I decided to go with Stephen Castle. Castle slowly became one of my favorite in this class. You know, he's actually, I think he'll go higher than this. This is just based on what I think would happen, but I think, you know, he measured right at like 6'5" or 6'6" in shoes. He's already has like a physical body at like 20 years old, 19, 20. You know, yeah, his shot was not great, but I think it's solid enough. You know, his free throw percentage is if that's any kind of like indicator, which some people think it is. I think that, you know, he'll be okay, at least like a 35% guy from the outside. He just does so many other things. He's so smart on the court. You know, he could be like another Marcus Smart except bigger, right? You know, so I think that would be just a really great piece for Portland to add. You know, going forward, I think he works with any of those other players. So I got Castle at 7. The Spurs, man, they get lucky. This was supposed to have been Toronto's pick. Toronto lost like their last 15 games to try to move up. And this is what trying to tank gets you. It gets you bad luck. So the Spurs taking Topic, you know, kind of get their future, hopefully, lead guard. The Spurs need 3-point shooting, you know, and, you know, they need a way to open it up for their other players. They need somebody that would just really make teams pay. They just don't have anybody. You know, Keldon Johnson has has also kind of taken a step back. I don't know what happened there. He at one point looked like this future piece for them, and now he could be a piece that can be traded here. But yeah, so with that in mind, I'm going to go with Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect crushed it in college, if I could say that. Like, he is a little bit older, but he had so many games over 30, where he just was just knocked down. You could not stop. He got on fire. He basically drug an average level Vols team into the tournament. He's legit 6'6". His wingspan is okay. I think it's maybe 6'7" or 6'8". So that's not bad. He has a little bit of bounce. He already has his adult body, just natural score. His defense is not good, but with a guy like, Victor and Devin Fizzell, you're not going to need him to do a lot, considering that if he gets beat, Victor, he's so alien-esque, he can cover the entire paint by himself, basically. But, Dalton will definitely give them some, just a person who has that firepower, that flamethrower ability on the outside. I think that it could really use a person of his specific skills. Number 9, the Memphis Grizzlies. As we know, we are a Memphis Grizzlies household here, podcast and a show. This was tough because I'm a big fan of a couple guys on the board here, and I wasn't really sure where to go. I don't know if the draft will shake out and that these options will even be here. But, so the two main guys I was looking at right here for the Grizzlies, and that is Montes Buzelis and Ron Holland. I am a big believer in Montes. He has a great bounce package. He's super athletic. I think he tested as maybe the best athlete in the combine. And he has a lot of defensive intangibles. He's 6'10" or so. You can play that 3 or the 4. He came up as a guard. Ron Holland was projected as the number 1 pick for a long time. He's got a great slash, ability. He has a motor that is better than anybody else in this draft. He takes defense personal. But both of their jump shots were not good with the G League. And that's kind of like a common theme with players at the G League. They just, I'm not sure if it's a system, but players just don't shoot well there. But both should track to be a little bit better in the pros. But just going off of your upside, I decided to go with Ron Holland. Ron, to me, has the most upside of the two players. He is, he's got his build is great. He can probably guard 1 through 4, maybe 5, depending on certain circumstances. He gets in the lane. He finishes at the rim so well. Smart player. I already said his motor's crazy. I just imagine a lineup of Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ron Holland, Vince Williams, and Brandon Clark, and just making other teams miserable with how hard that team will play on defense. It would be just absolutely incredible if they can get his shot right, which is one of the only major skills that you can really fix later on. You can never fix a person's height or their wingspan, but you can definitely teach them how to shoot a more fluid jump shot. And if you look at G.G. Jackson, a person who was not a great shooter in college, came in and shot a really nice clip in his first year, and a lot of that is because of their coach that they brought in with Anthony Carter, who worked on him with his dribbling and his shooting. So I feel like Ron Holland would be a great fit here, and he's also a piece that could be a future piece that you don't necessarily need right now, which is just kind of the luck right now for the Grizzlies. Well, they get injured, but they get a free, really high level prospect here, and don't even need him really. Moving on to number 10, we have the Utah Jazz. I thought a lot about this pick, man. I was looking around. I was like, man, what do they really need? What is working there? And man, John Collins has been okay. I really like Lauri Markkanen, but he's on. I don't know if he's going to get moved or not. Colin Sexton, I'm up and down on. Some nights he's really good. And people might, and this is in that 10 to 20 range. This is where I think players are really going to have a wide range of, we don't know what's going on. So this is a lot of just what I look at and I assume that they're going to do. This pick's going to shock a lot of Jazz fans and they're going to turn this video off. I decided to go with Jared McCain. And before I get all the death threats and stuff, Jared is a sniper, man. Like he is 6'2", 6'3" in shoes. He can play off the ball, he can play on the ball. He's a smart player. He plays pretty solid defense. I think he could come in and be like a really great spot up shooter on the wings for them that they really need out there. They don't have a lot of really awesome killers from outside. With guys like Jordan Clarkson getting older, and other players not really working out that much. I mean, like Taylor Horton Tucker has never been really good, and I think Jared could come in and give him 20 minutes in his first year. And at the very least, he could probably put up like in 4 to 5 threes. I definitely think Jared's going to be a guy that moves up draft boards as we get into the personal workouts and everything. This might be too high. I did think of like a few other players, but I feel like this is like a pretty saucy pick, and so Jeremy Kane 10 to the Jazz. The Bulls, man, they have been in this limbo of are they good or are they bad for I feel like 4 years now. Lonzo Ball, had them cooking at one point, and now I don't think he's ever going to play again, unfortunately. Zach LaVine, they've been trying to move off of him, I think, for a while. I think that they will try to move off him. DeMar DeRozan is now a free agent, and they're in this weird spot of do they try to make one more run or really just blow it up? Based on how this board fell, I think Montes Buzelis would be the obvious pick here. He has the highest, upside of any player remaining. He has great size. He could fit a lot of the current holes if need be in that 3 or 4. He's also from Chicago. I feel like the pick should be Montes Buzelis. Buzelis, I've already talked a little bit about. I am a huge fan of his game. I think he shows a lot of swag. I think he'd be a fan favorite in Memphis. He has this, in your face, like, I'm going to come at it, attitude, which I just love. He'll throw it down on anybody. He'll challenge anybody at the rim. And he also plays hard on defense. He has a lot of really great natural instincts on where the ball is going on the court. He's able to get in those passing lanes pretty well. He's a good help side defender. He's already gained, I think, like 20 pounds since, in the last year or so. So he's taken his role as a professional really, really seriously. And I think he's going to continue to do that. I think he's up to almost 200 pounds. I think maybe 210, 215 is where he needs to be, still have his natural bounce and his natural speed, but also be strong enough to guard 3s and 4s. He has a tight handle. His shot was not good. And he also tend to get himself into trouble at times. He would make some bad, slashing, moves, or he would, just things that guys are like, 18, 19 do sometimes. But I think that he would be an immediate fan favorite with the Bulls, and he would love to be in Chicago. I think this is a great spot for Montes Buzelis. Moving on to number 12, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have another pick because I feel like that they've just done nothing but draft over the last couple of years, and they get to just kind of take the best player available on the board. They don't really have any major needs. I mean, you could say maybe like a center here. So I could see them take in maybe like a Kyle Filipowski. I don't think Zach Edey fits in that system, so to speak. They play a really high tempo ball. But why not take the guy that already has a brother on the team? And that would be Cody Williams. Cody Williams was one of my favorite players early in the year. He shows a lot of great on the ball skill, know-how. He's got a really good scoring package already. His 3-point shot percentage wise looks really good, but he didn't take a high volume. So that's some of those things where, is that, good in a short, burst, or over the long haul, is it also going to have those same, metrics? But, I feel like, he could come into the Thunder and give them another big body wing. They have a whole bunch of those. He could play the 2 to 3, maybe the 4 in some instances. He came out a little shorter than I think we were projecting. 6'8" is what he was listed in college. I think he's 6'6", maybe 6.5 in shoes. So he's not as big as we thought. So that could change some things for him. But he has a lot of really natural talent, obviously, in that family with his brother. I think that they would just be awesome to see on the court together. It'd be like another luxury for the Thunder. So Cody Williams, number 12. 13, we have the Sacramento Kings here, man. And I was looking at their roster. Their starting five is really solid. I think that they have a lot of really good parts. Harrison Barnes is a little bit older now, but De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Kevin Huerter, are all solid. Monk had a really great year, but he is unrestricted. Keegan Murray had another good year. Trey Lyles here, so Davion Mitchell didn't hit, but so I feel like they could really use any type of player. They really just need, talent. So when I started to look here, so for the Kings, I decided to go with a big. I thought that, they could really use some help in that 4 or 5 spot, somebody that is a little versatile, who can do a few different things for them. I decided to take up somebody that could maybe stretch the floor a little bit as well, and that is Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith playing out of the G League, 6'10", 6'11", really versatile, big offensively. He's not the best on defense, but I think he's somebody that can fit with a few other players, including, with Sabonis, as well out there. I think that both of them could play together and mix and match. Him being a real offensive threat could work really with Keegan if they wanted to go with maybe a faster lineup out there. But yeah, I think that the King kind of have a luxury where they can, kind of swing a little bit, but then take, a pretty safe chance here. So Tyler Smith, number 13. Portland Trailblazers are back on the clock at 14. And, we earlier took, a pretty versatile wing player with Castle. Somebody that's really good on defense that can do some things for them. And I started to think, man, they kind of need maybe another versatile big as well, but then maybe getting rid of, Jeremy Grant. They need they need more players that have got, higher, more experience, knowledge, and Castle's younger, but man, playing on that, on that championship team, he showed a lot of poise. So just looking at players that I think could add some offensive versatility that they might need out of that big spot. And so at 14, I decided to go with Kyle Filipowski. Kyle Filipowski coming out of Duke, he thought about coming out his first year. He didn't get a lot of the love that he thought he was going to get. So he came back and he improved his game. He upped his 3-point percentage, was 8 points on the exact same amount of attempts, which shows really great progression. His 50 percentage actually dropped a little bit, which is kind of weird. But then, he upped, most of his other intangibles. He's a guy that moves well with the ball in his hands, off the ball. He's a good connector, piece in terms of being able to pass and make smart decisions. And then he has, a pretty natural scoring touch around the rim as well. And, he can, he's got some bounce, not a lot, but, he can make you pay if he's in the lane, and everything, he'll, toss one down on your head. But I think that this would be a pretty good spot for him and a good versatile player that Portland can start moving forward with. Number 15, we have the Miami Heat. And while they have some guard help here with guys like, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, a couple of others. I think Rozier didn't pan out as much as they thought he was going to. He was hurt some, just didn't really do a lot of what they wanted. Jimmy Butler might be wanting out now. Bam continues to be mad about everything. So they have a lot of weird spots here. I love Caleb Martin, but, he's going to get paid here soon. So I feel like they need to get their guard, at least of the immediate future, or a person who could be a really good player for them off the bench. There's one guy that has been really just killing it at the draft combine. He's finally showing everybody hey, I've been good all along. You guys just haven't been paying attention to me. And he looks like a perfect Miami Heat player in terms of his play style and being able to be just a on-ball, off-ball threat. And that is Devin Carter. Devin is a hair on fire type of player. He's going to come in, be incredibly aggressive on offense and defense. He's just really physical. He gets on the boards. He's got pretty good size. He's not huge or anything, but he's a good size guard. And it's another smart player who can come in and really play that in that scheme with how Spoelstra wants to run it. And I feel like he would be a fan favorite there, just like Jaime Jaquez has been so far. I think that they just need to continue to load up with smart players that are going to be on good contracts, because some of the contracts that they've loaded up on are going to come to bite them in the ass a little bit. But Devin Carter, number 15. 76ers, man. So this is going to be like the last year of the like the tank, basically that they did all these things to basically get these picks and line up all these salaries. So this is going to be like their last year to really see if all this has come to fruition. They're getting a lot of money off their books. So I don't know if they'll keep this pick. And in fact, with all these players and teams, I don't know if any of these picks are going to trade it. This is just if everybody took these picks, right? So with that said, I think that they're going to want to get a player that is able to come in from day one, give them really good minutes, be able to play multiple positions, because them being on a cheaper contract is going to be big for the Sixers if they try to go get a guy like Paul George or somebody like that, right? If they decided to spend this money, because they've only got, I think, like 6 or 7 guys on contract right now, and the rest are all going to be, off the books. That Tobias Harris huge terrible contract is finally gone. So with that said, the guy that makes the most sense for me at this point would be Tristan da Silva. Tristan, didn't play at a big school or anything, but great size. He can play, the 3 or the 4 or the 2. He played on the ball. He played off the ball. Solid shooter. Really smart. He's multifaceted. Just high energy guy. Like, he's going to be, I think, he could be a great piece for them if they were, to go in this direction. He could also, really make up for a couple of the other players that are leaving. He's a little bit older, but I think that that's okay here. He would come in and could be a good role player from day one, which is what they're going to need. So 16th pick, Tristan da Silva. Next on the clock, the Pelicans at number 17. Looking, man, and there's going to be some changes here. They've, I think that their GM and their coaches have both alluded that they've, that they've seen enough to know that this isn't working. That they're about to move on from Jonas. There's a lot of rumblings that they're going to trade Brandon Ingram. The CJ McCollum thing did not work at point guard. They need an ability to get their offense in flow, man. Like they had so much talent and just no real engine, because they thought that they could just play whoever and just beat people over the head, but that's not how it works. So for me, when I'm looking at the board here at the player that I think could give them immediate impact and has good potential to do more, and that is Isaiah Collier. Isaiah, unfortunately played for a team that was just not very good. Him and Bronny James. The coach actually, I think, got fired because they were so bad. But he showed a lot in his time on the court. He unfortunately didn't come in as tall as we were hoping, which is why I kind of dropped him. I think he's closer to 6'1" or 6'2" than that 6'4" label. But that said, he still has a lot of potential. He shows a lot of explosive nature, crafty on the ball. He can shoot it okay from the outside. That's definitely something that that he tracks, that he's going to be able to do going forward. But he's tough. I think that he could come in there from day one. I don't know if you would draft him to start him, but he would definitely be an option with Jose Alvarado to really get that guard play back in line of where it needs to be. I don't think he would have the ego to not want to pass the ball correctly. I think he would be like a really good get here at 17 for the Pelicans. The Orlando Magic finally got back in the playoffs, finally got some wins. They didn't get out of the first round, but I thought that they showed a lot. But they also showed some other needs that they might have here. They have talent in most places. They have great size, but they still need a little bit other variables that I think could help them. Going into free agency, they are losing a couple of players, which will give them some money. And they have other guys that they might be looking to move on from, Ago Patazi or Wendell Carter, even though he's on a great contract. So I'm trying to look, I feel like a big could be really great here. And I'm sure Magic fans are like, oh God, we don't need that. But I feel like you're in a spot where you could swing a little bit for somebody that shows a lot of intangibles that could be, for the next 10 years could really protect the rim for you. And that's Yves Missi. Eves tested well. His size is legit. Great wingspan. He shows a natural defensive hawk ability that I think could really help with Paolo and with Franz. He could, really like help, protect the rim. He's a guy that could play next to Wendell if they ever wanted to maybe move, Franz to the bench. I feel like they really had to figure that out. Both those guys, him and Paolo, look like power forwards. I don't think that they're small forwards at all. But I think Eves would give them a really great player off the bench. He hides in that dunker spot. He runs the floor very well. He's in the paint. Just awesome finisher. So Eves Misi, number 18 to the Orlando Magic. Number 19, the Toronto Raptors. After all of their nonsense to lose, they end up losing their pick, basically. At this point, I look and they have a lot of holes, and they have a couple of spots I think are good with, RJ Barrett, obviously, Scotty Barnes, and then they have guys that that they're kind of just tied to at this point, and Jakob Poeltl, Bruce Brown with his big contract, but he earned, but it was we all knew that he wasn't worth that much, but it is what it is. So to me, they really need help on the wing in that guard position. I think that they should just go best player available here, somebody that is who's really crafty, who would be a natural scorer to help be on the ball and to give them other options, late in those shot clocks, somebody who can go and get their own shot, who doesn't need Scotty Barnes or somebody else to really go get it. So 19 is Jacoby Walter. Jacoby actually measured well at the combine. He is, right at that actual 6'5". I think his arms were 4 to 5 inches, longer, so maybe like 6'9" or something. So all that was great. His other metrics were really good. He had a really great start to the college, level. He just slowly, people started to figure him out a little bit. He had issues with other people helping him create shots, and then he's having to do so much. He wasn't able to really fight through doubles. And he had a couple issues with people on his hip, but he has already a really great offensive package. He's athletic. He's crafty. His handle's pretty solid, almost like maybe like a bigger like OJ Mayo or something. So I think that he's a really solid player who could come in, give them really good minutes early on. He's got strong potential still. So Jacoby Walter, 19. Cleveland Cavaliers, number 20. Man, they finally got back in the playoffs. They finally got to round 2. At this juncture, they're probably going to get bounced by Boston in 5, but maybe they come out and they win one. So at this point, you're watching them, you're just like, man, like they really need some outside shooting. They just don't have anybody on the wing who can really go and make some shots consistently besides Donovan Mitchell. Max Strus does some stuff well on the wing, but he does other stuff not so great. And then guys like Sam Merrill are just not very big. Karis LeVert, he's got some microwave potential. Darius Garland kind of took a little bit of a step back here. And then Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. So that there's a lot of stuff here that is really good. I think that they need to kind of go for somebody that, people are going to think that this is like also a reach here, but I think it's a really good fit. It makes sense to me, and that would be Jalen Tyson. Tyson playing out of California. Big, smart wing, 6'7", good intangibles. A guy that is also like just a killer from outside. He can play that 2-3 for you. He's tough. He gets in the paint. I think that just from a scoring perspective, he could be somebody who could come in, play next to Donovan, like at that 3. He could run with him. He could also hit consistently from outside, and they could put him in multiple packages. Just like another smart player that I think would be really good for them. So Jalen Tyson, number 20. Right, moving on to number 21, the Pelicans are back on the clock, and this guy I almost took at 17 because I was looking and I was like, well, they're moving on from Jonas, but then I thought that this guy might fall a little bit, so I decided to chance it, which is me, so that sounds kind of stupid, but I decided to chance it, and I wanted to get them a big that had really good upside potential, who could be one of those future bigs who can move really well, who's got great size. size, but also can hit from outside. And so to me, that was Kel'el Ware. So Ware measured well. He also draft-wise, combine, killed it. All of his athletic stuff is legit. And to me, I like everybody's like, oh, like, his motor. And it's like, man, I've watched interviews with him, and the fact that he did so well at the combine, I think that to me is an effort thing, is wanting to be, to place well and to look well and to do things. I mean, like, guys that are kind of lazy, wouldn't really put in like maximum effort there. And he did, and all of his stuff looks great. He hits at a nice clip from outside. He rebounds really well. He blocks really well. He's everything looks like a great player, but for some reason he has this label as he doesn't have a motor. So I think that is, at least to me, I don't believe it. And I think he's going to be a really great steal for them at 21. I think he could be a future center for them. He runs the floor. He can be a guy who can hit shots. He can do a lot of things that Jonas cannot do. And so you can keep him on the court, which will give you a big rebounder late in games. So Kel'el, number 21. 22, the Phoenix Suns, the team that is in limbo. They're in, or hell, I guess, depending on if you're asking Phoenix fans. As Matt Ishbia came in, cleaned house, gave away the farm for Kevin Durant, gave away what was left of the farm for an aged Bradley Beal, who had a monster contract, and now they don't look good. And some people like myself and other people that I've chosen podcasts, just kind of saw it and they were like, I don't know how this is going to work. You don't have a point guard at all. It's not NBA 2K. You can't just throw out 3 talented players and go get buckets. Like they couldn't get stops. They couldn't get into their sets. There's just so many things, right? So at this point, I think they need to just take the best player available, and because they don't have a luxury to do elsewise. Now, this is a player that I myself, I don't like. He wouldn't be on my board just based on the allegations that happened. But, he did well in the combine. His measurables are really great. You can't deny how good he was in college. That is Terrence Shannon. So Terrence, was very good at Illinois. He scored very well. He can hit from outside. He has a lot of on-ball talent where, you could throw him out there off the bench and he could go get his own shot. He easily go get buckets. He's a big guard. They don't have a lot of players who can go do that outside of their, big three. So this would take a lot of pressure off of them for having to play, 38 minutes a night. If he is cleared to play because of all the allegations and about him, then I think, and maybe he turns a corner. He's not a terrible person, then this could be a steal. If he ends up being another Kevin Porter, a person that the writing was on the wall, people still took a chance on him, and he still ended up being a terrible person, then, it's 22. It wasn't that big of a risk. But, there's a lot of, high risk, high reward here, I guess, which is kind of the spot that they've put them in. So Terrence Shannon, 22. 23, the Bucks, man, like how the mighty fall fast, I guess. I don't know. The Bucks won that championship, and they've just not been able to be healthy or to make any runs since then. They're firing coaches. There's just a lot going on here. Their big man situation's not great, but their overall just everywhere is not great. They have Giannis, awesome, and then everybody else, right? Damian Lillard was a terrible swing. I don't know why they did that. It never made sense in that offense. Chris Middleton's older. He's hurt a lot. Brook Lopez is hurt. I mean, he's older. I love Bobby Portis, but he's not a real center. And then you got Pat Connaughton and a lot of guys who do the same thing. They did not prioritize developing Marjon Beauchamp, who could have been a big swing factor for them. So that's kind of biting them in the ass. Now, this is where the first spot that I really thought about taking Zach Edey. And he could easily go here. But I also feel like they need to go with upside here. Makes the most sense that I think if they make any moves, it's going to be in the free agency or in the trade market to get some more stability. So I think you should just swing here and try to take the player who could be maybe a future piece in the next 2 years, next to Giannis, who's still, young. And that is Tichon Saloon. Talk about just a pure ball of clay. Saloon has so many natural abilities. He's got great size. He runs the floor well. He's like a 3-4. He just, he has stretches where he kills it from outside, stretches where he slashes and hits him with euros, and he could dunk, and just a lot of great stuff. But then he has moments where he looks like, he's a kid and doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't really understand, proper, weight and balance in terms of how to drive, and he puts himself in bad situations. I think a player like Giannis could work with him and get him to a level where he could be a really strong running mate. I think that you just at this point you take a chance on developing another, could be at the very least role player starter for you, maybe an all-star if you're lucky. I don't think you can play it safe here if you're the Bucks. I think you just do your homework, try to make some moves or whatever with free agency and just normal veterans. But I think here you have to just go for it. And at this moment, with him falling this far, I think would be a real good piece for the Bucks. So Saloon at 23. 24, we have the Knicks back-to-back, and I think this is where Zach Edey is going to go. I have him. I think he fits them perfectly. They're a slower team. They like to pound it in. He has a lot of offensive, versatility. You've got Mitchell Robinson, and Hartenstein might be leaving to go to free agency. You just don't know. I mean, maybe they give him a bag, but if a player like Zach Edey falls to them, maybe that's more insurance to just let him go. If you feel like, okay, well, we still have Mitchell, and then, Zach Edey's this guy who can come off the bench, who's this giant human being, So number 24, Zach Edey. Edey, for all the things that I don't think he does well, he does a lot of other things very well. One, he uses his size incredibly well. Chip Williams actually pointed out that his, conditioning has to be very well to play as much as he does, and I didn't even put that into my head. It's like a factor. He does play excess of 35 minutes a night for Purdue at the time, and so he's going to take his professional career very serious. He's going to put in the work. He'll never be a guy who can really bomb it from outside, but maybe he's got that like Jonas Valanciunas where they just leave him alone. Like he takes it like it makes him pay. His biggest issues obviously are going to be on defense. He did test pretty well in the combine. He had some things that were right in line with people like Donovan Clingan in terms of his his sprints and everything. But it's going to be hard for him. He doesn't have his lower body might be able to slide okay, but maybe he just doesn't move this well. I don't know, but so he's going to be a liability out there at times. But I think in that system with the Knicks, he could be really, really good. 25, the Knicks are back up, and I think that they just need to continue to take these Knick-esque bruisers that are going to come in from day one and give some really good options to the Knicks, add to their bench. And so I'm looking at, Julius Randle, who they thought about moving off of for a while now. He's injured a lot. So to me, the next player who could be like a really good, person to come in from day one and give them really good minutes is DaRon Holmes, which I don't know why he's ranked so low. It's absolutely insane. So for those who don't know, played out of Dayton. He is a do-it-all forward. Just super versatile scorer. His three balls actually, it's gotten pretty clean. It's a little slow. So that's going to be his only issue in the league is it's just not as fluid as it should be at this current point. But he moves really well. He's strong, really smart player on both ends of the court. He would give them a really versatile option at that 4 spot that, if a person like, Julius Randle, drops again, that, he could, play and that would let a person like Ochinobi maybe get a few minutes on the bench and not have to play, 40 minutes a game. But yeah, so this would really be, I think, a solid veteran-esque player who could come in, like him and Zach Edey would give them them some immediate help in that front court. Number 26, man, we're almost done with it. The Wizards are back on the board here, and we took Donovan originally, and now it's like we need to figure out somebody that that fits maybe a more current need. And I look at them; they have. Even with Tyus Jones, their guard play it just wasn't great. But he's a free agent also, so I feel like they need to get somebody who can come in from day one, be just a really good guard in general, and get the ball out of Jordan Poole's hands, who just has not been a good fit for them in any type of capacity. And I'm going with Bub Carrington. Carlton is just was awesome at Pitt. Super tough guy. Just he can do it all. He's another, multifaceted guard. He's around 6'4", 6'5". He can play both those spots. He's a punch you in the mouth type of player. Gets in the lane. He has some outside ability as well. It's not the highest clip, but he also had to do a lot for that Pitt team. So his shots weren't always great, but I think him coming in, he would give them a really good option immediately as a person to like put in some minutes here. I think Washington would like to compete earlier, but they're unfortunately in at least one more year of this rebuild, and I think he would be a good step forward into their liking guard room. 27, Minnesota, man. What a year by Minnesota. They were healthy, most of it, of which is a big contingency in terms of the teams to actually compete. They need help maybe in that 3-4 spot, but I kind of feel like a lot of their low end is when player like Mike Conley goes to the bench and they have to rely on other people to really have to run the offense and do things. And I think that they, to me at least, need another person who could come in and keep that level of play up, keep the system rolling, a person who does a lot of what Mike Conley does, and that is Tyler Kolek. Tyler Kolek, incredibly solid guard and career at Marquette in college. He did everything for them. Good shooter. He hits the boards. He passes the ball well. He's a good system guy. He can do a lot. I feel like he could come in. He's right at that 6'2" to 6'3" range. His athletics were okay at the combine. He didn't blow anybody away, but he didn't look like he was going to get killed. He could be a TJ McConnell-esque player. I don't think that they're the same styles, but I that's what I view him as here, is a person who could come in and be that spark plug, dog off the bench who just gets after it. And plays his ass off. I think that he would be really good for Minnesota. I would hate to see it as a Grizzlies fan, but I think Tyler Kolek, 27 to Timberwolves, would be a good pick. 28, man, the Nuggets looked to be dead at one point, down 0-2 to the Timberwolves, and then Jokic remembered that he's the three-time MVP now, and he's got a lot of skill, and he has just been awesome these last 3 games. At this point, they could really just use anything here, and they would be okay. They've drafted really well. To me, I think they just need another good veteran college player that can come in and play a few different roles, and also be a player that can get his own shot, because that's one of their major issues is a lot of their players off the bench. I mean, like maybe Reggie Jackson's okay at that, but he can't set the table for other people. You have to have Jokic play a lot, or Murray. So they need another really good ISO guy who's just tough as nails and a really great scorer. This might be a little reach for some people, but for me, it wasn't. And that is Dylan Jones. So Dylan Jones, for those who know, is probably the best. Well, he's obviously the best prospect since Damian Lillard at Weber State. He is a power forward in a guard's body, just super bulky, big. on the ball, does everything, high usage guy. He reminds me a little bit of like a Bonzi Wells, who, if you're an older fan, he was like a really strong guard, that just had, good size. He wasn't like elite from shooting or anything, but, he's definitely a guy who would just go and get buckets in the paint, just super strong. I think he would be a really great fit for them there. He can play that 2-3 spot off the ball, or at times also play on the ball and just bully ball people. All right, 29. We have the Jazz, who took Jared McCain earlier at that guard spot, and then I think that they need to take more of like an upside swing here if they do keep this. And to me, there is a player left on the board who has a lot of potential, who came on late. He's young. He's somebody that I think would just fit well in Utah. He could play that 3-4 and maybe one day take over 4. Lauri Markkanen if he does decide to leave. And that is Johnny Furphy. Well, Johnny does look like, the kid from Home Alone. He showed a lot later in the year. He came in at that 6'9". He's got an okay wingspan. He looked like a pretty solid threat from outside. He moves pretty well. So I mean, like he's also one of those like raw clay guys a little bit also, that I think that, could go to Utah. They can put him in multiple roles. He could really learn a lot there, and really how to grow. I think this is just a really, a needed upside swing from the Jazz here. They're not quite ready to contend, so they need to have at least a few more prospects in place that they could probably work with. So number 29, Johnny Furphy. And our last pick in our first round mock here, the Boston Celtics had a killer year, man, just all over the place. They were so good. But, they do have a couple of needs, in general. Like to me, they have, there's Jason Tatum and like Derek White, who are really their only knockdown guys that are in their rotation normally. You could say, I mean, like there's Chris Bops who shoots a little bit. He's not like, he doesn't do it all the time though. There's Sam Hauser, but he's a little smaller. Jaylen Brown's not really a shooter. Peyton Pritchard, he's a guard. So I feel like they need a little bit more size on the wing, a person that's like 6'7", 6'8", who can really play well off the ball, also play hard on defense, and then hit some shots as well. So this might be a little bit of a reach, but it feels like a really strong player that I think could really fit here in Boston. That is Peyton Sandford. Peyton, just awesome career at Iowa. Really smart dog player. He would be a fan favorite, obviously, for obvious reasons, but he would be a really big time player for them. He's got some like guard like skills. He's not like amazing in terms of his athletic intangibles, but he has good size and he is a knockdown shooter. He could come in immediately, give them bigger size on the wing so that they're not so overmatched, especially versus teams in the West where everybody's a giant. And he's also really dangerous. So I think this will be like a really good pick at 30 for Boston. So Peyton Sandford rounds out my first round mock. And as we see here, gone out SAR. I mean, like there might be some reaches here. I could totally see fans being mad at me. I get that. This is just the things that made sense to me. And then finally, there are a lot of players that I feel like could have easily been in this first round. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about that. So we have these are all of my potential first round guys that I think also could easily be in there, with, Cam Christie, who's really been moving up, Bobby Clintman, he has a lot of really, awesome potential. He's got really great size. Keyshawn George, shows a lot on the offensive side of things. He's not my favorite player just because he's so inefficient. Bakame, I don't know how to say this kid's name. He's another one of those, French up and coming, studs that has a lot of that like raw intangibles. I think that French national team is about to be really awesome. Harrison Ingram, another veteran player. He came in smaller. I was going to have him in the first round, but he came in at like 6'5", which is really going to limit what he's able to do because he's more of a banger power forward, but he's going to be asked to be a 3. I don't know his fit, but he definitely has talent. Trey Alexander is another player that I really like. He's got great size and he's 6'6", really good scorer out of college in Creighton. Nikolo Djurcic, another kid from Serbia, shows a lot of offensive versatility, but he's also really raw. But he could easily go in the first round. Ryan Dunn, incredible defender, incredible athlete. Just cannot score the damn ball. I don't know. I mean, like he'll definitely get drafted, but he's never going to be a shooter. It's like, how do you go about playing him? Jonathan Magobo, I don't have him even on here, but it's definitely another person that I think could be on there. And there's so many other players that I wanted to add, just couldn't do it. Folks, let me know how much you hate my list here. It was over an hour. I apologize if you had to watch all the way to find your team, but like I said, there will be markers at the bottom. Thank you all so much for joining me. Be on the lookout. We will be doing at least another mock draft 2.0 where I should be joined by a couple of people. And we'll do some like, team stuff, maybe some trades, things of that nature. And then after that, I'm going to do a live draft again. That's always fun. It's 2 days now, which is a super bummer. I mean, I get it, but it's so cool just to have one night. Now I have to wait and do 2 nights. It's dumb to me. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a great day. Hopefully your teams are doing the things that you want them to do. Later.